Alrighty, we are back. This is the Horror Bros. We are two bros watching movies.
Yo.
My name is Ed.
Yo. And I am Logan.
And before we forget, this is a spoiler warning. This is your last chance to bow out. This week was my pick, and we watched Videodrome from 1983, directed by David Cronenberg.
Come to me. Don't keep me waiting. Please.
Videodrome. The most provocative motion picture experience of our time. From David Cronenberg, the creator of Scanners. Starring James Woods and Deborah Harry. First, it controls your mind. Then, it destroys your body. Videodrome. Coming soon to a theater near you. From Universal Pictures.
Alrighty, so I think I've made it my sacred duty on this podcast to tie back everything to found footage. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. To quote Josh from the Blair Witch Project, I see why you like this video camera so much. It's not quite reality. And the terrifying thing is that sometimes it is. And especially in our day and age, video is reality. I think there was a quote from Professor Oblivion, television is reality, and reality is less than television.
Yep.
I know this because I'm a found footage aficionado. But you know this too, Ed, because you were the one who suggested that we watch Videodrome for the Horror Bros podcast this week.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites, to say the least. It's on my Letterboxd top 4. It's the first Cronenberg I saw. Still my favorite Cronenberg. I spent a lot of time with this movie, so I'm sure I'm gonna try to recap like a lot of my thoughts about this movie, but I'm sure there's gonna be something that I forget. Logan, this was your first Cronenberg. What were your thoughts, feelings?
My thoughts were, in terms of my 80s directors, I have two directors. They're both named David, Lynch and Cronenberg. And after the last movie I watched, as at your suggestion, Fire Walk with Me, I was not as optimistic, I guess, walking into this. I was excited because part of it was found footage, but I was like, I hope this is not the same. But I did enjoy it. It was damn good.
I think it's funny how often those two Davids are mentioned, like in conversation, like side by side, because they're so different. But they both have this, like, they both have a philosophy. And they both are a bit outside the mainstream. They've been both inside and outside of the mainstream, and they're both, like, the definition of auteurs. But they're so different, but I find it interesting how often people talk about them side by side. And I think they're both, like, fascinating directors. And I hope watching this movie has helped you differentiate a bit between those two. Cronenberg is pretty much, people agree that he's mostly a horror director, or he has a solid foothold in horror. Lynch is a bit in and out, but they're both like horror-ish.
Yeah. Well, I guess getting into the movie itself, we open on Max Wren, and he owns a television station that does like.
He runs a television station in Toronto. That's like local. It's not broadcasting like outside of the city. This is some information that I got from Cronenberg's audio commentary. There's a couple characters in this movie that are loosely based slash inspired by real people and real people who
Oh,
were big figures in Toronto specifically. Cronenberg grew up in Toronto. He has shot most of his movies in Toronto. He really loves the city, and this film really has a lot of Toronto in it. But Max Ren was a bit inspired by a guy, I forget his name, who ran a television station. I think it was called City TV, that kind of ran some softcore stuff. It was called the Baby Blue Movies. That wasn't it wasn't hardcore, but it was like pushing the limits a bit of what was on television at the time. And he got a little more leeway because he was very localized, like only broadcasting within a specific area. So I'm assuming that Max Ren is running like a very similar kind of operation here.
yep. And he in his I don't know, his tech crony Harlan pick up on a transmission that's apparently coming from Malaysia, I believe, and it's basically torture. Um,
Do you want to talk about
and
Harlan, or do you want to talk
Harlan
about the wake
Patron.
up call? Because that's the opening of the movie.
Oh,
I
you're right.
So okay, let's back up just like
Oh, backing
three
up.
minutes,
All right.
not just like 3 minutes of movie time. I just want to shout out to Howard Shore because, of course, he is a longtime collaborator with Cronenberg, starting with The Brood. And the score for this movie I think is great. It's not what you would expect it to be. It's like organs and strings, kind of like on the gothic side, but it and a little surreal in points. I think it's great. I just want to shout him out there a bit.
Yeah.
Um, but he's woken up by this like pre-recorded cassette of his assistant saying, "Okay, this is the day. It is today. You have this going on your schedule today." It's a bit odd.
Yeah. They definitely play with the idea of like normal human being things happening on uh, a TV screen. Oblivion and this wake up call.
I think it's a nice setup for what is this character's relationship to the screen and to this video
Sure.
technology before any weird shit happens. Okay, now we can get to Harlan.
Now we can get to Harlan. Harlan is he's a character, man.
I really enjoy him.
He's funny. He's funny as hell.
Now, to quote Cecil Baldwin, stop trying to make Patron happen. Other than that,
uh
I think he's delightful and entertaining. He's played by Peter Dvorsky. That's how you say his last name. He adds a lot of charisma to this
he
character.
does.
That is maybe like I think if you just read that character on the page, he would just be kind of sleazy or like grimy.
Yeah.
But Dvorsky just plays him with like a playfulness that like I can't dislike him. Even when the plot twist occurs, I'm like, he's just so entertaining. Like there's the bit where he
Yeah.
just like starts eating the paper. It's just fabulous.
I watched this movie like 12 days ago. I don't remember that.
I've seen this too many times.
Oh no.
Max is very interested in this tape.
Yep. He's also convinced it's not real. He's convinced it's faked somehow. I don't have any experience with this like genre, but I, I don't know. You pick up a weird channel from Malaysia, and you assume it's a legit business, and it's fake. It's not real. I don't know how he jumped to that conclusion.
I'd like to pull a little bit out of the book Cronenberg on Cronenberg. So, the story for Videodrome, quote, it began life as something I'd written earlier called Network of Blood. It was a very straightforward melodrama about a man who discovers a strange signal on television. That came from a lot of my own late night television watching as a kid. and suddenly seeing signals come through. As certain strong stations went off the air, you got weaker signals that had been formerly masked coming through. Sometimes they were very strange and evocative. Sometimes you were projecting your own meanings on them because you couldn't hear the sound properly. It was that experience that led me to posit a man who picks up a signal that's very bizarre, very extreme, very violent, very dangerous. He becomes obsessed with it because of its content, tries to track it down, and gets involved in a whole mystery.
I mean,
End
yeah.
quote. I'm referencing the book Cronenberg on Cronenberg, edited by Chris Rodley. Basically, it's compiled interviews that Cronenberg has given, and Chris Rodley gives a little bit of like context connecting them, and it goes through everything up to Crash, and I found it a very riveting read.
Wait a second. He directed Crash.
Yeah, well, the 1996 film.
If that's the Crash I'm thinking of, that explains some things.
Well, there's another movie called Crash that I don't remember what year it came out, and I just get so annoyed by the fact that it has the same title and it looks bad. It's some early 2000s thing. It looks totally different, but 1996 Cronenberg's Crash, that's. I wonder. Man, you could totally read it as a body horror, especially because it is definitely Cronenberg, but it's a different flavor of Cronenberg than this is. The 90s were a different era for him and the films he was making. His earlier career, which is what we're in here in Videodrome, was more was more straightforward genre, more action, more gore. There's still his ideas continue in like everything that he's directed, but as far as spectacle and a bit of schlock and practical effects, this is Videodrome is like top tier. This and The Fly is like maximum Cronenberg.
I mean, and I like it. I like it. So
I'm very glad that you liked this. Now I can show you all the other ones.
no, I am realizing that all of my notes are not like scene by scene. They're all like analysis. So
So I think next we go to the talk show. And in
oh,
this talk show, the Rena King show, we introduce Nikki Brand and Brian Oblivion.
Professor.
Nikki Brand is played by Debbie Harry. What do you have some thoughts on this scene?
I mean, Professor Brian Oblivion is the quote machine of this movie. So I mean, that's where you get all the quotes for your Letterboxd reviews.
Mm-hmm. Hit like all the scenes with him in it.
Yeah, he's just kind of this random character that shows up in the movie. He doesn't really kind of make sense, but like he just comes in to make the whole story better. It doesn't make sense plot wise, but it's just dope.
That's an interesting take. I think I've spent so long with this movie that like everything seems to fit together. So
Well,
it's nice to
yeah,
get your take on it as well.
it's not that it doesn't not work. It works great, but um, it's like running his whole plot line with Oblivion's daughter. Um, I didn't totally get, but I guess it works as kind of like a mentor, protagonist's mentor, or I suppose like a, but like something that's already fighting against Videodrome before Max discovers it. So in that way, so maybe I'm a little bit wrong. It works plot wise.
That's fine. The plot
It's a little bit
in
out there.
this one is a little confusing. There's a couple info dumps that Bianca Oblivion has to give, and I think that's part of why a lot of people get
Yeah,
really lost in this movie, especially in comparison to something like The Fly. Videodrome is has a lot of similarities to like a crime thriller or sci-fi thriller
yeah,
or a noir, and Max is walking into something that's already in progress.
yeah,
So he's like some like random detective who stumbled across something. And there's these two like rivaling gangs who are, fighting over the battle for the mind of North America. So Brian Oblivion is a philosophical opponent to Barry
Yeah.
Convex, but also he builds up the ideas that this film is dealing with.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take him 100% at his word. I mean, he's less untrustworthy than Barry Convex.
For
I
sure.
think Barry Convex is just like a capitalist who's also into eugenics. Brian Oblivion is more on the academic philosophical side. And also Cronenberg has said that Brian Oblivion was basically based off of Marshall McLuhan, who, if you haven't heard of him, he was an English professor at the University of Toronto, and he became kind of famous in the 1960s. And he coined the phrase, the medium is the message. And he basically formed like the foundation of modern media studies. And a lot of people like speak of him as like prophetic, which I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people say Cronenberg has also been prophetic. And I don't know if either of them are, but they're both very intellectually minded. And Marshall McLuhan was like a medievalist. He was looking at things from a historical point of view, not just what we're seeing right now, but the ways I've read a little bit of him that I can't claim to like really understand it, but talking about the ways that technology interacts with society and the way that it shapes us and then we shape it, and it's this relationship that he talks a lot about. Like he would talk about like the printing press and literacy and how that changed society. And so that really informed how McLuhan talked about video and television and radio. And he's also very quotable and has a fantastic voice. A lot of his lectures
Yeah.
are like recorded on YouTube. So you can look that up. He has some academic writing as well. But Cronenberg has explicitly said like he was a big, admirer of McLuhan, and this character was based off of him. And also, when you see Brian Oblivion's office, it's very antique.
Yeah.
It's got the wood. It's got a lot of like old things. This academic kind of warmth to it. It gives a really nice texture to this movie. And a lot of these side characters are so rich with texture and personality. Bianca as well, Harlan. There's too many things that I can say that I love about this movie. I should stop here,
Yeah.
but like we're gonna get back to Brian Oblivion.
Yeah.
But in this scene, we also meet Nikki Brand, who is a radio
Yeah.
personality.
And of course, Max immediately starts flirting with her.
It's just
'Cause
hilarious.
that's who he is. That's just his character.
Maybe I should also ask you, what did you think of Max as a protagonist?
He has no idea what he's getting into. He kind of reminded. Okay, so just I know you're probably not gonna like this, but he kind of reminded me of Mika, in a way, from Paranormal Activity. Of like, he's obsessed with this idea. I mean, of course, he doesn't have the dynamic with Nikki that Mika does with Katie.
He's like
But like,
obsessed with
he
it,
doesn't.
but like he doesn't, and he's been warned, but he still doesn't take the warning.
Yeah, he doesn't heed the warning, but despite the fact that he thinks it's not real, he still doesn't want Nikki. Jumping ahead a little bit, Nikki says, "Oh, I'm going to go to Pittsburgh and audition." And he's like, "No, like that. Don't mess with this stuff." And he, I mean, yeah, kind of the comparison to Mika of,
Yeah.
like, I can mess with this, you can't. This is a man's realm.
Yeah. I mean, he's an absolute sleazeball.
He's not a good person. Like, he's not like he's not necessarily a hateable character, but he's not a good person.
I think he's like I would never want to have to interact with this person in real life. I feel
Yeah.
like as a protagonist, he has a sheer curiosity.
Yeah.
And he's believable. Like I believe that this is a person who exists in this world, like who pursues things for profit and personal interest, and then just doesn't listen when there's warnings. And then I think by like the halfway point of the movie, by the time he gets like the stomach slit hallucination, I think he has pretty much lost his autonomy,
Yeah.
and which he is like slowly losing over the course of the movie. But I think he is just like he is not in control by that point,
Yeah.
by like the midpoint, and then that first half is him stepping deeper and deeper into this.
Yeah, again, all my analysis is like overall, like a whole about the theme of the movie.
There's just so many ideas
Is
in this movie. It's another thing I love about Cronenberg.
Yeah, I mean, you could just give me 30 minutes at the end of the episode.
I've tried to break up my analysis into like the moments where it fits. But if we want to move on to another scene,
Yeah, no, just go ahead, keep on chugging.
Immediately after the scene at the Rena King show, and okay, shout out to Rena King real fast because she got the three worst people on the show that one day, and she is struggling.
Yeah,
She does not get paid enough for this bullshit.
she's got Oblivion at least. So
Well,
she should have just talked with Oblivion the whole time.
Oblivion is just saying mumbo jumbo.
But like funny
The
and interesting.
television retina or the television screen is the retina of the mind's eye, and she's like, okay,
Okay.
like he is just off in another world, and she's not sure what to do with him either.
Yeah. And Max and Nikki are flirting the whole time.
She's doing
They
her
start
best.
their own conversation.
Cut right to Max's apartment, with Nikki
And
over looking at all his tapes and asking, "Hey, you got any porno?"
oh god.
Should I? Is now? I think now's the time to mention that I think Cronenberg has a thing for nondescript white men, borderline ugly, and then the most beautiful woman you've seen in your life. But I just find it funny. I think the only exception I would think to the Cronenberg protagonist is Jeff Goldblum,
Oh,
who
absolutely.
is
That
definitely
man.
sexy and
Yep.
incredible. But Cronenberg has a lot of like bland white men, and I think it works for his stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, why is James Woods with Debbie Harry? And she is stunning. Anyway.
Yeah.
So she's looking through his videos. She's like, you got any porno? Oh, what's this? Videodrome.
It's one weird movie.
And he's like, oh, it's just violence. It's not exactly sex. She said, says who? And she's really into it. They hook up some questionable entry level BDSM.
So I know I haven't seen X, but I know there's a scene at the beginning of it where you have like a sheriff or something who's coming across the crime scene after the whole thing's happened, and they find a camera, right? And
Right, yeah.
someone asks him, "What do you think is on this one fucked up horror picture?" And I think this is kind of the beginning. They played with it at the beginning of the movie, but this is kind of the first time that the connection between what they're watching in the movie and what we're watching as the movie is compared. Like, yeah, we're also watching this as much as Max Ryan is a creep. We are watching the same stuff as he is.
Yeah. This is the early 80s. It's the age of, or maybe the beginnings of the age of home video. And it was a big thing. Video was less regulated when it was outside of theaters. And porn was a thing before. It was absolutely a thing in the 70s. But when home video came around, it was a totally different conversation. The UK actually had a whole big debacle around the regulation of home video and the fear of pornographic content. That's called home video nasties. And I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm going to do my best.
That's good.
I will just have to pick some movie in the future where I can info dump about video nasties. How did you interpret like this film's relationship to like sexuality, S&M?
I really didn't read into that.
Like,
well,
did you have any thoughts
it's
related to like how it depicts those topics?
How it depicts like
sex, kinks.
my analysis is all about how, like, what the hell are you watching? Because if we jump to the end, I can like connect everything.
Do you want to pause and like do your like
I actually,
interpretation just because
let
like
me see what I can do. It's the way I see it is the filmmakers are turning to the audience and saying, you can't judge. Can you judge these people because you're watching the same thing?
that turns up a lot of found footage as well, right?
It does. It does. Thank you. Actually, great transition. Like the ending of Grave Encounters, to reference I think our last episode. Who's watching this at the end of the movie when Lance Preston is, before the whole, site, the lobotomy thing? It's like, who's watching this? F you, f you. Um, and especially, I think 2 nights before I watched this movie, I watched the Poughkeepsie tapes, which is all about a serial killer who records his screwed up stuff, like extended videos of him being in people's houses and a girl he captures and tortures for years, and like mentally screws with her brain. Um, and and at the end of it, I was like, yeah, okay, I just watch that. Um, because it's weird because when you have found footage, like I said at the beginning, reality and the movie are really messed with, and especially when you get a Blair Witch that really tries to build a mythos of this is real, question mark, and especially with a movie like the Poughkeepsie Tapes, it's um, what the hell are you watching? That kind of stuff does actually happen, and I know why my reason why you don't like it is because it's so like realistic. It peels back a layer of defense against what we're actually scared of. I know you have the idea of the whole horror movies are based on what society is scared of at the time, and found footage kind of turns that it's a little bit more honest in that um, it's much closer to the surface of what we're actually scared of. Because if you consider like a Cloverfield or 28 Days Later, post 9/11, and that's Cloverfield especially is almost a 9/11 esque event of an alien invasion. So, um, yeah, there's very little disconnecting us from what we're actually viscerally scared of, which I enjoy. I don't enjoy the whole. I don't enjoy found footage films that are actually human beings being horrible human beings to each other, but it is really telling and really condemning in a way that other not found footage movies um, don't often hit.
Yeah, there is definitely a discussion that could be had um, about depiction of actual violence on film, and that's not limited to found footage. Especially if you look at a lot of stuff, exploitation stuff from the 70s, stuff like animal cruelty, um, and violence and like sexual violence. Some of that is real.
Yeah,
Sometimes you don't always know that when you're watching something, but sometimes like exploitation is just trying to exploit an audience interest. So about trying to do something more and more scandalous, and trying to be as believable as possible. Now, Pink Flamingos, directed by John Waters, is specifically about like who is the filthiest person alive, and it has a philosophy of filth that is deliberately trying to be edgy and put people off. It's done with intention, but there are also plenty of exploitation films that don't have that same intentionality, that like, okay, you didn't need to put like that scene of actual animal violence in the film, you're just trying to shock the audience.
I think where this film, I won't say fails, but where it doesn't end up taking this discussion to the next level is it do people actually die on the show? We don't actually find out.
We
We
don't
assume that they
know.
do. And we don't know actually what's happening. We never actually get to that room. We never find out anything really about the show except for who runs it and who's like the origin of it.
Yeah.
It goes in the direction of, and this going into the ending, obviously. Um, but the next step for Max Wren was ending the movie because it makes sense. And all the rhetoric that in this movie of reality is television, television is reality, it makes sense that it's going to go to the nth degree of, let's just end the movie. That's the next step of ending this voyeurism of, and this weird relationship between human and screen. And I think that does really help because it's a sudden ending. And I don't actually hate it because I was watching As Above, So Below, and the ending would have been good, but I wasn't sure. And with the ending of Videodrome, you're sure. You like it makes sense, at least to me. Like as soon as it stopped, I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." Dang, that was good. Because especially because Max does become like a pawn of these
Yeah.
people behind the camera. We're jumping around, so I guess we're just gonna go
I
with this for
mean, we
this
kind of
episode.
have to because there's so many like
Yeah,
plot twists and reveals that it's hard not to
yeah,
talk about that when you're trying to somewhat go through scene by scene.
yeah. I don't know if we can do scene by scene for this one. We tried.
Anyways, so they find out that the broadcast. Well, Harlan tells Max that the signal is being broadcast from Pittsburgh. That's in the USA. And then shortly after, Nikki leaves, supposedly on assignment, to go to Pittsburgh, and she says she wants to audition for the show.
We find out later that she's not on assignment, right? She says that she's on assignment, but she does it of her own volition, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't really have a read on that.
What I saw from what on the IMDb summary, they called her a sadomasochistic radio host. So and when I watched it, it was kind of more subtle. I didn't know if like what she did with her radio was that kind of thing, kind of what
I
Max is
think
doing.
I think that's just describing her as a person.
Yeah, but she's definitely like into that stuff, and you could definitely read gender into this of like taking control of your own sexuality, and I'm not gonna let a man tell me how to like express myself. Um, Especially one like Max Wren. Do not let. I don't know if I would let Max
He's
Wren.
a piece of shit.
He's kind of a bad person. But she ends up on the show. She ends up in hallucinations, and she ends up on the show. We don't know if she dies. Do we?
I mean, Bianca tells us that she does.
Yeah. It kind of
Rewind
seems like she'd become. Oh, rewind. Okay.
just a smidge.
Just a smidge. All right.
The depiction of sexuality and BDSM, I feel it's oddly like it's not judgmental. If anyone is a Puritan, it's Barry Convex, who is specifically trying to target people who watch porn and give them brain cancer. But I feel like Cronenberg is not being judgmental of having an interest in BDSM.
Yeah, I don't think. I think the at least for me, the focus was on like, call me crazy, but I read into like the TV portion of it. I didn't really get any commentary about what the audience themselves do, and especially kind of the scenes where you have with Nikki and Max. It doesn't seem like it's judgmental. Um, who just do you know who initiated the kind of weird stuff that they got into? Was it Nikki or was it
I think it
'cause I know
was
Nikki was like,
definitely
"Oh, I like
Nikki,
this."
because Max is like, what? You let someone cut you? Like, he's surprised that, like, she would want that. And she's the one who introduces that idea to him. She's like, oh, do you want to try a few things? It's like refreshingly consensual,
Yeah,
but also this is like
yeah.
his first time doing anything like this. And it
He
definitely, I
has,
think,
yeah,
changes his attitude later, like following that scene. Especially, like, I think the next scene after this is with Masha. I think it does
yeah,
change how he feels about violence and sexuality intertwined. But it's definitely like
yeah,
Nikki's idea. She's presenting it to him,
yeah,
which is kind of refreshing to see.
yeah. and I don't think that Cronenberg like judges it. I don't, or
Yeah.
like I would say the filmmakers, but Cronenberg as the
Yeah.
filmmaker.
Sexuality is such a big theme among Cronenberg's films. It occurs in, I mean, pretty much like all of them. So it's always an interesting discussion to be had because it's always like in the picture to a degree. I think it's definitely near the forefront. Like in this, it's very in the forefront in Crash, um, and like
From what I've
Shivers.
heard.
It's definitely a little bit there in The Fly as well. But Cronenberg is never. I don't think he's ever judgmental or like intentionally misogynist or
Yeah,
any way that in the way that he portrays it. He's just like interacting with the ideas of it.
yeah. I think a movie like X would better. They straight up talk about it, of the like people and their sexual stuff. Um, in movies like this one, and I'm thinking of Poughkeepsie Tapes in particular, because that one is very like a lot of it is violence against women. You do see like I think a guy does get murdered, but like
Yeah,
the woman that he tortures is like a woman, and
yeah.
it
And
definitely feeds into his own like, oh, I want this woman to, you know,
violence against women is a big problem, especially in snuff and modern
yeah, that's
pornography.
yeah.
It's pretty rampant and
So I think definitely to your point, the relationship between Nikki and Max is a lot better, than, because it's not like I'm gonna kidnap you. It's like we're gonna have sex anyway. They are horny, very horny, very horny.
I mean, and that's valid. And that's valid.
So the judgment that Cronenberg, or at least the way I could see the judgment being of like the voyeurism of it, of other people are getting hurt and you're having a great time. You're not even related. You're not connected. You are watching a video of this. Um,
Yeah.
so it's not like healthy. It's not a healthy relationship. It's not. It's not necessarily consensual. I don't know how Videodrome works. We never really learn, but it's not
Within
a
the show, you
relationship
mean?
between two people. Yeah, like within the show, like people who sign up for it, do they know it's going to be recorded,
We have
etc.,
no
etc.
idea, honestly. There's a great quote that Barry Convex says later on in one of the big reveals. But why would anyone watch it, Max? Who would ever watch a scum show like Videodrome? Why did you watch it,
I wrote
Max?
that down too. Yep.
And I think it's like one of the best like thematic lines of this entire movie is like, okay, but
Yeah.
why did you watch it though? Like I don't feel like Cronenberg is going to judge you for having an interest in watching it, but we're still interrogating it.
Yeah.
And here's this Barry Convex guy who thinks that watching that stuff is immoral
Yeah.
and he wants to hurt the people who watch it. That is more of a problem than just like watching porn.
Well, I was gonna say, connecting to the whole consensual, non-consensual. When Masha, when Max's hallucinations with Nikki turn into Masha, um, like when he finds Masha's dead body next to him, um, it definitely gives off the impression that if Masha was actually involved with this, which I don't know if she was, we don't know, it's a hallucination, she was not doing it willingly. So, and like even the concept of someone else being in his dream, I don't have much to think. I there's analysis there, but I don't know. But because she disappears and she doesn't come, I don't know if she comes back. We don't know if she actually dies when she is found dead in
Now that I think
Max.
about it, I
Or
want to say Masha is only in like 2 or 3 scenes.
yeah, because there's the scene where she's showing her film to try to get it on the show.
Yeah.
The scene where they meet for dinner and Masha's like, I know something about this. It's dangerous, and and she talks about the philosophy of it. Um,
And then she
which we could
shows up
definitely
like
analyze that
in
in
the
a dream.
hallucination and then she shows up in his bed. Both of which like we don't know whether that's real.
Yeah, yeah.
But to segue into the next scene, so Max is in a meeting with Masha, who is delightful.
She's a fun character.
She is so much fun. Um, love her. She is showing him a softcore film to sell it to him on his channel, on his television channel, and he's like, "Darling, this is soft. It's too
This is
soft.
tame.
You know, I'm
tame.
looking for
Yeah.
something that's, edgy, rough, something that'll break through." And this is the guy who the night before just tried BDSM for the first time, which I find hilarious. I find that hilarious. Of he's like, this softcore shit. So he asks Masha to if she's heard of Videodrome, if she can track it down. And she's like, okay. But she also like proposes to him like, what if you produced your own show?
Yeah.
Like, you know what you want. You're very interested in what the audience is looking for. Why don't you just produce your own show? And he says, nah. Which I think is interesting, especially like me. I'm a filmmaker and a film student, so I'm looking at, okay, what, like, this guy is just interested in like buying video.
Yeah.
He's just buying a product. He's not a creator. He's not interested in adding something of value to the market. He just wants to buy something
and make profit off of it.
Yeah.
Presumably.
And I think also the way that he's interacting with this media at a rather shallow level. I don't get the impression that he is really inquiring why he's interested or why the audience would be interested. He's not engaging with it on a very deep intellectual level, which is also like, I mean, part of the problem that leads us into this whole story. But that's what I read out of that little interaction, which I found interesting.
He would definitely be the person to start talking about the ratings. Oh, when this is on the TV, the ratings are through the roof. And your standard old white guy in a suit is like, oh, ratings, pointing at this graph that's pointing up with a little, I don't know, they have these weird presenter sticks pointing up. Yeah, he's not, he doesn't seem, he's not high class, or he's not like rich in the same way. Professor Oblivion and Convex are definitely much better off than he is. But he has the same
lower level business guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because he says like, oh, it's a matter of economics. I'm trying to give people what they can't get anywhere else, which is basically like what exploitation cinema was. Is people with very little money, very little resources. They're like, oh, people like seeing things that have this, like, that have nuns in it, or that have cannibals in it, or have like lesbian scenes with. Okay, if I just make something that just has that in it, people will want to see it, and people do want to see it. That's I think this has more of a relationship to exploitation cinema. I totally forgot at near the beginning when they're watching Samurai Dreams in the boardroom. There's that really smooth transition of this softcore like East Asian just lady in her little dildo, and then the camera moves to see Max and two of his business partners watching it, looking really bored, and the guy's like, can we get away with it? Do we want to get away with it? And they just seem like so bored, like it's just a regular day at the office. I just find that funny.
Yeah.
Like it's the guys running Pornhub or something, and they're like, can we get away with it? I mean, do we want to? Would it get viewers? So the next scene I'm going to jump to is the other meeting with Masha at the restaurant.
Oh, we're not getting through this quickly.
Look, there's a lot to unpack in this movie.
It is a very, found footage could take us like 45 minutes. This movie, no.
I just like this movie too much, and there is just so much that is packed in here in every
Yeah,
single scene to talk about.
it's like we gotta like pick something to highlight.
Okay, I can try to speed up a little bit. But this is when Masha tracks down Videodrome. She
Mhm.
says, "You don't want to get involved with this. This is snuff." Max does not want to believe that, and she says, "It has a philosophy, and that's what makes it dangerous." Which is, of course, a badass line to bring in the conversation about snuff and violence on film. Something like a John Waters film, I think I would say has a philosophy. Even if like I don't think it excuses some of the stuff that is on film, it has a philosophy and an intentionality behind it that is deliberate, as opposed to like a random guy who's just recording a porn video that is just violence against women, which I feel like a lot of porn and snuff and exploitation is like just for that shock value, just for self gratification, and it doesn't have a philosophy and intentionality.
Yeah. I'm comparing this. I'm comparing this to the Poughkeepsie tape because I've got nothing better. Um, uh, the found footage movies I watch don't really discuss. Don't. That's kind of the weak point of found footage is they don't really discuss stuff. Um, and definitely they add on to the what can I get on film and what can I pay for and what can I get money off of, which for like a movie that's like a spooky bedroom, a paranormal activity, or other horror movie, you know, I don't know, like Grave Encounters. Like this is just we're recording something. It's not necessarily, um, and we're trying to spook the audience. It's not. Yeah, we beat up on characters, but it's not like that wrong. I guess.
I think like Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, and maybe Wrecked also to a degree, they do a pretty good job of you can see a reasoning behind why it's recorded in this format, um, and it serves the story. Not just we did it because it's cheap, even though that can be a bonus, but it definitely the choice of found footage
Yeah.
enhances the story. So unless you would like to insert some thoughts, I was gonna jump to the stomach slit scene.
Nope. No thoughts.
Okay,
Green light.
so I'm gonna do a big fast forward, insert the stock sound of oh, unless you want to talk about this sticking your head in the TV, which was
When was that?
awesome. When he sticks his head in the TV.
Is that when Nikki like shows up in a hallucination?
Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he's got the hots for it. What can I say?
understood. Um,
Can't blame me.
the practical effects are top notch, and they're done by Rick Baker, who is one of the goats of practical effects. And
I mean, he's got a hole in his stomach.
he's got a pussy in his stomach. What can I say? I
If I
mean,
would call it that, I would just say it's a hole. I
orifice.
mean, orifice. Yes, he has an orifice that may or may not be a tape player. It's not entirely clear, but we stick tape players in there and something
I
happens.
mean, technically, a tape player has an orifice.
It does.
That is also a big Cronenberg motif. Orifices.
Maybe I'm not so sure about this Cronenberg stuff.
Anyway, and this is when Max has the gun, which of course is a indication that his brain is going a little haywire. Um, I
Where did
do.
he get it from?
That's not important.
Oh, okay. I was like, did I miss something? I look away for a second. I know he had the gun. I remember he had a gun. I
Yeah.
didn't remember
It like
got it from somewhere.
he like unpacks it like in his kitchen,
Oh yeah, and he just straight up sticks it into his stomach hole.
as you do.
That's the first instinct when you ever have a hole.
My best guess is that he was too scared to actually touch it with his hands, which is still dumb. But also remember, this is like the midpoint ish of the movie where his brain is
Yeah,
He got the
he does
tumor
not.
brain.
He doesn't. He uses his
He's losing it.
rationalism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his rational decision making is definitely at least halfway out the window by this point, if not already out the window.
If he had any to start with, I have a comment kind of about that, but that's later in the film.
Okay. Do you want to get into the conversation about guns?
I I
I just find it interesting. Of course, this is a very Canadian movie, and we are Americans, and we see a lot of guns on film. It's a big thing.
yeah
It's a big thing in like a lot of movies, even when they're not American, but Americans just have it a lot. Um, and this movie has it has a little bit of a different take. I like how like the first scene that Max has the gun, he doesn't like know how to use it. Like he's very unfamiliar with it, which
he wasn't a Boy Scout.
I enjoy seeing that because like Americans we like to act like we know what to do with guns. In reality, we don't. The majority
I
of
kind of
us.
do.
But yeah, you're a Boy Scout.
I have a little bit of experience. I don't use them on a regular basis. I've used them a couple times.
Yeah. But like in cinema, like usually it's like, oh, people know what to do with guns.
Yeah.
And Max is like fumbling with it and like the cartridge falls out and I think it's funny.
Yeah.
And also the gun is here in the movie. I feel like it's still used relatively sparingly compared to what you might
Yeah.
see in like an American sci-fi thriller.
Oh yeah, gunshots all over the place.
Yeah. Moving on. Bianca clarifies that Videodrome is not that particular video that Max saw. It is a signal that can be delivered under anything. So the Videodrome signal can be delivered under any video, and it induces hallucinations in the viewer. But the hallucinations are the how the hallucinations appear is determined by the tape's imagery. It contributes to that theme of what you are looking at on the screen does matter. Like, yes,
Yeah.
the creators of Videodrome are trying to hurt you, regardless of like really what you're watching. But it does still matter like what you are watching and what is being depicted on that screen. I feel like I could just like speed run basically what happens during the second half of this movie and then we can get into our overall takes.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a take after, like when he starts getting possessed by the um the Videodrome people.
Okay. I mean, I'll say like don't come to this show for plot summaries. You can get that on Wikipedia,
No.
IMDb. Those are easy enough to find. I like trying to go in chronological order just because it kind of organizes my thoughts, but in the case of like this movie, that really starts breaking down real fast.
Maybe we should kind of dispense with the whole plot by plot thing, and we should like assemble where we want to discuss, and then do that in chronological order. Would that work?
I don't know. How about
Because I don't know. I feel like going scene by scene is kind of slowing us down. You know.
I think it depends on the movie. I think this movie also because
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of
this
it.
one.
I kind of started writing down almost every scene because I could say something about every scene. I mean, in Grave Encounters, I mean, you were laughing at me for like skipping over huge chunks of time.
I mean, yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know, I
But-
just write down things when I have a thought. And if I'm not having thoughts, there's just gonna be blanks. And there are like no blanks for me on this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a point when
Yeah.
so Harlan reveals to Max that Harlan has actually been working for Barry Convex
Yep.
and that he showed Max a tape of Videodrome. It was not an actual transmission. And then
Yep.
Barry inserts a Betamax tape into Max's stomach orifice.
Yep.
And then he starts hearing voices.
Naturally. He's losing it.
Also, the gun is back.
Gun, what appears, you know.
The greatest Chekhov's gun.
It's not bad. It's not a bad Chekhov's gun of all the Chekhov's guns.
The fact that it's slimy and wet.
And it fuses with his hand. And so also great
Yes.
practical
And then
effects.
starts screwing itself into his hand flesh.
Yeah, like you do.
This is, I mean, you don't get this anywhere else. This is pretty Cronenberg.
If you like it, this is for you.
If you're into that.
Yeah, and then he goes and I want to say he shoots his like fellow owners of his TV station.
Mhm.
And the comment I put here was like, was it the casual maliciousness of a white man? Um, and like
Yep.
Max Redd is not really seen as imposing for a lot of this movie. Not that we see him as weak; he's just not an imposing figure. But when someone starts taking over his mind, that very quickly turns into, "I'm just gonna murder you guys." Bam, bam.
I think that's the most dated part of
Yeah,
this movie. And it's not like extremely dated, but it feels definitely, it's pre Columbine, pre 9/11,
yeah,
pre like awareness of white men possibly being a threat.
yeah.
I mean we were born in like the 2000s, so we're way
Mm-hmm.
too young for this conversation, but like okay, so you watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
I did. Yep.
and there's the time when they pick up the hitchhiker. They say in passing
Yeah,
like, "Oh, what if he's weird? What if he's like violent or whatever?" But they still pick him up.
yeah. And then he ends up being weird.
Yeah, in the public consciousness of like, "Oh, don't pick up hitchhikers, they could be serial killers." Wasn't so much a thing in the early 70s. And then like 90s there was like Columbine, and then we became more aware of that as a thing that we weren't in the 70s and 80s. And we're very American, so I don't know exactly how Canadian society was feeling at that time about that same thing, but um, it's definitely not the same as it would be
Yeah.
today.
When I was listening to Random Horror Generator number nine's episode on the Strangers, which is a home invasion, and they were talking about how it kind of fed into and like really was aware of the fact that this is just random violence. There's not really any reason or sense that we can read into it, and the fact that people became a lot more aware of that after 9/11 of
Yeah, the explosion of the internet was also a big part of like how torture porn became a thing. Just like not only was it happening, but we were seeing it, and we were seeing it in ways that were new and were more accessible than before. I mean, a somewhat similar thing happened in the 60s of Vietnam War violence being, broadcast
yeah,
on television, where horror in particular is poised that it needs to interact with that idea, because us as audiences are going to have a different relationship to watching violence because of what like happens in our society and how we get news and how we see video.
yeah,
I could jump straight to Long Live the New Flesh and
yeah,
like just the ending, honestly. I don't have as many thoughts on the second half.
yeah. We did kind of cover it too. Well, right? We discussed the ending.
A little bit, a little bit.
I talked about how that makes like the whole
Yeah.
voyeurism ending the voyeur. What was it? I think that ending the voyeurism of the audience. You can't watch this anymore. Nuh-uh. Bye bye.
The abrupt ending is also a pretty Cronenberg thing.
Okay.
You remember Ginger Snaps has the same thing, and Ginger Snaps is very inspired by Cronenberg. It's like once the story is done, cut to credits.
Over.
We're done here.
We don't need falling action. We're good. The action happened. We're done.
This is it. We're done.
We're done.
And a tight 90 minutes. I love a tight 90 minutes or less.
I love me some tight 90 minutes.
I love you, David Lynch, but that's not what Lynch is interested in. He would be happy to have a 5-hour cut of Fire Walk with Me.
Oh God, that's hell. That's hell right there. It's forcing me to watch that.
But Cronenberg is short and sweet, tight, fast, economical.
Economical.
Long Live the New Flesh. I can say cut to credits, and I can give some overall thoughts.
I think I've given my overall thoughts.
Okay. Um, I just wanted to talk a little bit about body horror, which, if it wasn't invented by Cronenberg, he is very much associated with what became called body horror. There's not one definition of what that is. I could even say that most, if not all, horror is kind of dealing with the body because all horror deals with death, and a lot of it also deals with sexuality, and all of those are very connected to the physical body, and the fact that we exist in a physical form which is fallible and temporary, and it is not entirely within our conscious control. Cronenberg specifically, I mean, he's kind of the best. There's other things that are called body horror. I've heard Reanimator called body horror, which I wouldn't entirely agree with. It's gross.
Yeah.
Body horror is it's a lot more tied to ideas of abject and revulsion than so much being scary or startling. It often does have some spectacle with it. Like Videodrome is a great example of this is an image in your head that is stock full of ideas. The only two body horrors that I can think of that stand out that are not Cronenberg would be Raw from 2016, Julia Ducournau, and The Substance from Coralie Farjat from 2024. They're both dealing with not just the body and how the body can go awry, but us as people and our relationship to our bodies. But in Videodrome, Cronenberg is very much dealing with the body being outside your control, but it's relationship between the body and the mind and how they cannot be separated. So, yeah, I'd say this is body horror. It's a bit on the like, you have to think about it a little bit, and it's definitely usually gross. Do you have anything else that you'd like to?
I don't think so. I think I covered all my stuff.
I think I've sung enough praises of this movie.
I mean, I think it's good. I think it's one of those movies that's kind of found footage. Obviously, I'm gonna make this about found footage. Oh, yeah, this is my stuff. Um, it's up there with The Descent and Sinister of having that element of found footage. The Descent doesn't have as much as the rest, but definitely this and Sinister have the vibe of, oh, yep, there are tapes. And in universe, there are tapes. And we're going to watch these tapes.
I also chose this like as a contrast to like what you usually would pick, for the sake of you and for the audience, for our listeners, for like, okay, here's something completely different. This is definitely on the art house auteur sci-fi
It's at least
thriller-ish.
it's not thesis modern thesis horror at least.
Not quite, but it's got
thesis horror.
It's got idea.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of ideas in it. I wouldn't say it goes so far as a thesis because I don't think that Cronenberg gives us an answer, which I appreciate. But he's definitely like, hey, here's a bunch of ideas, and he's not going to give any moralistic judgment. And that's what I really love about him and also this movie. What's our next segment?
Reviews. I actually have a couple.
Oh, I totally let me pull up Letterboxd real fast.
All right, I'll go ahead and pull up the ones I have. This one by Matt Lynch. It's a quote from the movie: "You've gone as far as you can with the way things are." And then he says after it, "You are a voyeur and a killer and a pervert, and you are the future." And I just thought that was cool. And then, what was this one? Gives a whole new meaning to the words live television. A review by Maria. And, of course, my own quote. My own review had the quote, "The battle for the mind of North America will be fought in the video arena, the Videodrome."
I have a couple that I'll shout out. Karsten's, who says, "Watched, then went home and smashed my TV with a fucking hammer." This is also a 5-star review. In a heart, I will clarify.
Understandable.
Lubchansky, who says, petition to replace Chekhov's gun with Cronenberg's goo pistol. Relating it back to David Lynch somehow, Willa McClay says, along with Blue Velvet and Psycho, Videodrome is perhaps the best. You're in too deep and uncovered something you were never supposed to see. Horror film. Yeah,
Nice.
Very, very nice.
Yeah. What is next segment is what we've watched recently. I have watched so many movies. So many movies.
Me, who's always watching so many movies.
Since Videodrome, highlights are the first movie I've watched from like the past year, Companion. Pretty good. Lake Mungo, Blackwell Ghost, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Witch, Cloverfield, and As Above, So Below. So just, just churning through them.
How far back?
What about you?
Okay, so yeah, I've kind of watched a lot of movies. I'm gonna sound like a basic bitch, but Sinners is really fucking good. Everyone is right. Believe the hype.
You keep saying that.
It's not really scary.
Damn it.
Come on. It's got a lot going on. It's one where the trailer definitely made it look like more genre fair than it actually is. Because I was very down with what I saw in the trailer, which made it look like, oh, we had a fun little party and we summoned demons. Oh no, it's another one where there are so many ideas going on here. And it's made by a passionate filmmaker. It's very well made. The music's incredible. There's just a lot that you can unpack with it, and that's something that I really love to see in a movie. I did some rewatches. Until Dawn was decent. That was another recent release. I rewatched Raw. It's really good. I rewatched Ginger Snaps and Possession. They're both really good.
Possession.
Ginger Snaps, I'm afraid, is another one that would be like, I could make it a 5-hour episode.
God, no.
I mean, that one is not as jam-packed as this one, though.
That is true. There's a lot less concepts thrown around.
Yeah, I just really enjoy it. I would just be like, oh my god, I would be gushing.
Yeah. You're definitely gonna see the distinction and the big difference between me and Ed in terms of what we like to watch.
Well,
because especially with this next one, if we want to get into that, go ahead. If we want to go ahead.
Now, before you tell me, because as of right now, I do not know what he's going to pick. But I do know what my pick is going to be right after it. And it's probably going to be another situation of I'm having a whole lot of fun, and Logan is probably like, eh. But I'm going to be having a whole lot of fun. And Logan already knows what it is. So I don't want to spoil it yet.
I do. It's written down somewhere. I'll find it out.
It's going to be awesome.
Oh god. What?
At least I'm gonna try to bring a friend for that one, so hopefully there'll be more energy. Because look, I can't have you like not enjoying it.
I enjoyed Videodrome. I watched it too long ago.
Yeah.
So my thoughts were all like they're gone now. My brain is stuck with chemistry and calculus. We can cut this all out in post, right?
I think the thing a Videodrome is you can take something from every scene.
Yeah, that's the problem. Because like I don't think that we can go scene by scene. I just don't think that works.
I don't think we will. No.
Okay. I'm just trying to say as we're getting into figuring out how the podcast works. Are you ready for me to tell you what our next movie is?
So in Horror Bros, what we do is I pick a movie and then Logan picks a movie and then we go back and forth. So this episode was my pick, and now we're gonna move to Logan's pick. And what does he have for us?
This next one is one of my favorites. On October 8th, 2009, a Halloween haunted house opened its doors in Abaddon, New York, a small town just outside New York City in Rockland County. What you're about to see is a documentary on the mysterious events surrounding the 2009 Halloween haunted house tour tragedy. For this next episode, you're going to get to meet the director of my nightmares, Stephen Cognetti, because we are watching Hell House LLC, a absolutely terrifying found footage film that I believe came out in 2015 and has 2 sequels, Lake of Fire and The Abaddon Hotel. Not necessarily in that order, But in my opinion, some of the scariest found footage films. Not like a Creep. Like a Creep is just the most uncomfortable watch. These movies are genuinely terrifying, and
like Haunted House
they're
kind of.
Haunted House, yeah,
Because Haunted House, it is a style of scare.
yeah,
It's the like something jumping out at you, and also atmosphere.
yeah.
Like ooh, cobwebs, sounds. Like Haunted House is a style of horror.
I will say you're probably gonna hate this one, and I'm gonna love this one. And we
Well,
watched it like a couple days ago, and I
what did
loved
we
it.
make this podcast for? We made
Torturing
it.
each other.
We made this for the exact purpose of making each other watch things that we would not watch otherwise. So, and becoming better horror fans in the process.
Yeah, I'm definitely making you a better horror fan. But I'm gonna
Excuse
go
me,
ahead.
I introduced you to like class today.
I was the one who brought up Rec. I was the one who brought in
No,
Blair
you
Witch,
brought it. You
Paranormal
brought it.
Activity.
Yeah.
I brought it. I brought the good stuff. Okay.
But I also
All
brought
right?
good stuff. We both brought good stuff.
We
Okay?
both have. I'm going to go ahead and say for Ed and the listeners, Hell House and its 2 sequels, not the 3rd sequel, naturally, are all available to watch pirated on YouTube. The full videos, or the full movies are on YouTube. So I will send that to you.
Thank you, YouTube. Thank you to
Thank you, YouTube.
You know, the people who uphold society are the people who post full movies on YouTube. Thank you for your service to this country. And they're all. I mean, currently they're also on the original Hell House, also on Tubi and included on Amazon Prime. As of right now, is my big asterisk.
As of right now, these things could disappear tomorrow, unfortunately.
So just go rip them off of YouTube while you still can.
No. Yeah, I don't know.
If you care, if that's your thing, if you're into it,
they're good movies. They are good movies. Alrighty, and so I think that's all we got.
We will see you next time.
Go watch Hell House LLC.
Stay spooky.
Stay spooky.